Correct, that's why. Yeah.
See, I was going to get you free then.
Yeah.
How much people pay for that sort of stuff?
I know, a lot, yeah. Couldn't afford it. In terms of attitude, right? There are two kinds of attitude. Some of you may have known this if you have attended some of our previous programs before. We talk about solutions, we talk about excuses, right? So those who tend to give excuses are what we call problem bringers. They bring problems. I mean, they don't create the problems, but they just tell you the problem and then do nothing. So they complain, they give excuses, they whine a lot and do nothing. Okay, so generally, the bad feedback comes in the form of excuses, comes in the form of complaining and doing nothing, right? So those are the bad feedback and tends to come from people known as problem bringers. On the other hand, we mentioned about solutions. So these are the people that we call problem solvers. Yeah, so it's not to say that these are people who can give a solution to every problem. They couldn't. They won't be able to do it that way. It's a matter of the attitude who is willing to try to find out possible solutions, work to possible solutions, work to partial solutions, or just trying to find a solution, even though they could never ever find a solution. Right, so it's about the attitude. So this comes into play as when it translates into the feedback you get as a leader. How many of those people are those that gave excuses only, and how many of those are actually suggesting solution? Right. Before we go into the actual some of the other aspects of what are good and bad feedback, we're just looking into why feedback is important, or why listening to feedback is important. Again, in our real case, company, the boss basically owns the company. Very dominating boss, very authoritarian boss, tells employees what to do. You must obey the boss to the final letter. That kind of authoritarian boss. And in a way, that's still okay, except that when the employees found that there are mistakes in terms of market orientation, in terms of product offering, in terms of how certain customers have to be dealt with, how do we actually pitch to different customers' needs. So this feedback, very constructive, always talking about solutions, was given to the boss. The sad thing was that the boss not only did not listen, but tell the employees that these are excuses. Okay, and actually basically run down or put down the employees a lot over and over again in such a way that the best employees left, or in fact most of the employees left. Right. So eventually, what's going to happen is that the repercussions, the consequences are being borne not by the employees, not by the team members, by the leaders. So it's about the importance of that, you can actually make a distinction. You listen to employees, and employees don't really always need you to take action on every single feedback. Sometimes they just need you to listen. You can give your comments. If you take action, if you think it's a great idea, they also don't need to be rewarded a lot. Sometimes it's only just given the due recognition. Right, so that's the key about it. So here we go. So why some leaders don't get enough feedback? You shoot the messenger. What I mean by shooting the messenger, I mean employees sometimes or team members can tell the leaders bad news. And the bad news is not what the team member did. It's something bad that happened. Customers rejected our offer, right? We lost some businesses somewhere. There were some customers complained somewhere else. Nothing to do with the team member. It's just that a team member told the boss about it, and the boss shot the messengers and blamed it on that employee, and either fired that person or make it life difficult. Yeah.
It's not just about blaming that employee. I had a client that we had this issue with, and the manager, when we talked to him about it, he actually said they should, which I hate that word, they should understand that it's just my emotional reaction to the problem. It's not directed at them. It's just me venting and expressing my emotional feeling about the problem. And I'm like, so basically I put him into a situation where I started to shout at him and show him how it felt. and right then, I immediately started screaming at him about letting him know how it felt. And look, you put yourself in their position. I don't think it's necessarily a situation where the messenger feels he's going to be blamed and or punished, but just the idea of who's going to go in there and get hit in the face.
Yes, with the bad news. Yes.
Right.
Yes. So other reasons that you don't get enough feedback, you shot the messenger.
Right.
No one wants to carry the message anymore. But two is you reject the bad news. You take it that no, it's not happening. We are not like that. This is false. Right, bad news is not affecting us. Refusing to listen to the bad news or refusing to even investigate whether is it the case like this, rejecting it outright. Sometimes not bad news, sometimes just different views, different ways of doing things. Can we do things a little better or a new, that can be a new way of doing something or doing something new. So there was this mindset of not invented here, this is something that we don't do. So we reject different views. This is if you do some combination of all these three, usually no one wants to give you feedback anymore. You know? The other part is you listen to the feedback, you did something, but then you claim it as your own idea. Someone gave the boss a great idea to do something, and it was a hit. And then the boss said, "Look, that's my idea." You claim credit for something that someone else said. So
he's not going to get any more good ideas.
You're not going to get any more good ideas, right? Or that it's a great idea. The boss just gave lip service. Great idea. It's great, and then did nothing. Okay, so this is some combination of why you don't get enough good feedback. Right. So that's this is some of the things that many leaders, many managers do, and it's kind of alienate your team. Not only you don't get feedback, your team members just don't want to speak to the boss ever because of this. Right, so you just alienate the team. Some rules. If you want to listen to feedback, some rules on the feedback themselves. One, do not defend yourself. Even though you feel that what the person says is unfair, incorrect, misled, you don't have to defend yourself. Even if you believe it's applicable, do something about it. If you feel that it's inapplicable, it's not the case, you don't have to do anything. Right? You don't have to defend yourself. Two, you don't have to justify yourself. You don't have to tell people, the reason that this happened was because during that time something else happened, that's why this thing happened.
That's excuses.
You know why it can be the excuses? In a sense, it may be real. Right? And of course, there are some cases where you may need to give some justifications. If it is, on the other hand, your boss asking you why certain things happen, right? You may want to give boss a reason why certain things happen, especially if it's a negative thing that happened. So that may be the case. But if it's feedback from team members, you don't have to justify yourself. Again, if it's applicable, if you think it's useful, use it. If it's not, you don't have to justify yourself. You don't have to attack people. Right? When people are giving you feedback, you don't tell them that this is not true. I'm smarter than you are. I'm more smarter than you think you are, and so on. And don't attack people if you don't like what you listen. Don't go trial lawyer. Trial lawyer means like you're in trial. I did this 1, 2, 3, 4. I didn't do 4 and 5. That's 3 is correct. 1, 2, 3 is correct. 4 and 5 is not. It's not what you said. You don't have to go into the nitty-gritties. Basically, just listen. Right. So this is just some rules of listening to feedback. Some actual words to you can say I appreciate the feedback. If you find that there are certain things that are interesting, but you're not too sure if you're going to take action or not, this is what you can say. I need a few days to digest everything, and then let's get together and I'll share my personal plan for follow-up action. Right? Yes.
Yeah, I have some points about justify yourself. Because I think even for team member, they wanted to give feedback to you. Actually, they expect the communication. They want to also get feedback from the managers.
Sure.
So I think listening is very important. At the same time, maybe the team member, they don't know what's going on at the manager's level or at the leader's level.
Sure.
So I think it would be nice to let them know what's going on and what thoughts in your mind. So it's a two-way communication.
It is. That's why in terms of justify yourself, it's not about using it as a way to be defensive.
Right.
If on the other hand, if you find that team members or your boss will need to have some background, it's beneficial for them to let them know some background information, what happened then, what was the general situation then, why you did what you did. If it's going to help the conversation, sure. Well,
but not justification as reaction.
Yes, as to being defensive.
Yeah, it's not defensive.
And how to define being defensive? Defensive means that whatever I did is right.
Yeah.
That's called defensive.
Right.
By not being defensive, is to say that whatever I did could be right or may not be right. It's just what I did. And I can give reasons on why I did what I did, and you can let me know, was it the right action, was it the wrong action, or could I have done better? So it's to take away the part that I'm always right out of the equation. Yes.
What would you do in the situation when your boss just kind of says that and doesn't follow up? So I think in some ways, the people just say that, like, oh yeah, I need a few days to digest this.
Yeah.
And then that's just kind of like, as an employee, I kind of feel like it's just an excuse.
In a way it is, which is why I mentioned earlier on, why we don't get enough feedback as bosses, is when bosses don't follow up, employees just lose hope.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, why should I take time, risk being shot as a messenger, to tell you something, and then you do nothing? Right, so why should I do that? Or even when you do nothing, I don't even get any kind of reply why you did nothing.
Yeah.
You know, so that is something that kind of alienates team members as well. I mean, you may not offend team members, but it's going to reduce the number of feedback you get from the team members.
That's easy to solve though. If in the situation, in the meeting where you're receiving the feedback, you say, give me a few days, you open your calendar right then, and you make a follow-up appointment in that meeting. That demonstrates, commitment to following up. And then, if it truly is a situation of the manager being so overwhelmed that he can't keep all the balls in the air, and follow up, then that's going to put the onus on the team member to cut. Well, I'm coming back on Wednesday before.
Yeah.
That's an
I don't think it's more like just maybe they don't like what you said, so they just want to be nice.
Well, to me, feedback is too often taken as a reflection on a person's character.
Yeah.
When it is not. And it's hard not to, because we're emotional people. And I think that a manager, just like I spoke of the man who was shouting at his employees, a manager can't necessarily expect his team to not react emotionally. But he himself should be a little bit above that.
You need to control the emotions.
It's a little bit more objective.
Yes. Right? So the key thing is, not all feedback. In fact, most of the feedback sometimes are unactionable. They are not applicable. It's unpractical or something. So as boss, sometimes you just need to let the employees know that, thank you for feedback. I think it's a great idea. It's just that at this moment, due to whatever reasons, we won't be able to do it. It's just tell it that way.
I just have to say, because I'm working for time for the salary increase, scene, and then everybody will try to come to my office to say that I need to get a high salary increase, and then I have a lot of feedback, and then, of course I cannot give everybody the same, but based on their performance evaluation, but sometimes the performance evaluation is not that,
it's not that impressive.
Not that impressive. So that's why I collect a lot of feedback with emotional, but I cannot carry out a lot of foreign action plans. So that's why what I can do is that to listen and then to explain. Actually, we have some principles how to conduct this salary increase, but not further action plan, but anyway, let's wait to another year. So sometimes they just want to express their emotion, or they are not expecting to do something. Anyway, if you do something, they will have a continuous issues.
Definitely. I mean,
it's a tough position.
Yeah,
it's a tough position when your feedback or majority of feedback is, I want a pay raise.
Of course.
Yeah, so the majority, and you have to say no to 90% of them. Right, and it's just a matter of saying in a way that is respectfully, and there are some reasons why no, or what else you need to do further in order to get that raise. Yeah. So this is again you feedback to the feedback. Right. So these are the sort of things that part of self-awareness comes from feedback. The pay raise part is less applicable for self-awareness. It's more for work situation. What I meant by self-awareness type feedback is when you get feedback to the boss, when you're the boss, on how you are doing, if certain decisions are right or that could have been done better. Right. So these are some things that already as employees, as subordinates, as team members, sometimes people find it difficult, they find it intimidating to give feedback to the boss, because you're the boss, right? So already that kind of feedback is going to be not a lot, it's going to be few. So all the more, these are opportunities that you can actually get a check on how you're doing, where you're going, are you on the right track from people around you. Okay, so those are opportunities. Now, assuming that you like to have a more well-rounded way of getting feedback, besides or doing self-awareness, besides getting the feedback, what you can do is there are other tools you can use to get an idea of where you're going. So one of those tools is a 360-degree, you can call it feedback, you can call it assessment, you can call it a tool. So why do we need 360 feedback? Anyone not familiar with 360? Right, 360 basically just to give the background information. In the strictest sense, is you are supposed to get feedback from your boss, your subordinates, your peers, people of the same level, maybe different departments, your customers, and your suppliers. Okay, so this is the true sense of 360. Normally, what's in practice is we just focus on the internal people, not the external people. Right? It's sometimes a lot harder to get feedback from external people, but then again, it's just a matter of how you overcome those situations, if it's necessary. So internally, a 360 feedback will be something from your boss, something from your subordinates, something from your peers. So that will give you an all-round view of who you are, what you do, how you're getting on. So basically, that's that. Why do you think you need a 360-degree feedback? Yes.
Because all the feedback will be different.
Simple answer. Because who you think you are may not be what other people think you are. Okay, so that's one. Two, and just some distinction in how you use 360 people. Once you get a 360 feedback, well, depending on how you use it, you can use it a very primitive way and just get someone else to interview your boss, your peers, your subordinates on a paper version. That is also a primitive way of 360 feedback. Or you use some other assessment tools, which we'll talk about it later on. Once you get a 360 feedback, the job is not to reconcile what your boss says versus what your subordinates say. right? You don't have to make sure that everybody have the same feedback on you. What you need to reconcile with is why is there a difference between who you think you are and what the people around you think you are. There could be some differences, and sometimes we don't even need to reconcile those differences. Sometimes we just need to find out why there is this difference, right? And maybe there's something you can do to take some actions in your career path. And sometimes there will always be some differences in perception, and that's okay. So that's just some background 360 feedback. What I'm going to show is 4 sets of information. We'll go into what these letters stand for later, but just bear with me in looking at the patterns, not the theories behind all these letters. So basically, this is what is known as a Bell and team role profile. So you have assessment that you do on your own. That's called self-perception. And then you have observers 1 to 4. They will do the observers' feedback to you, and these are their scores. And what the system does is it will combine these two and have an overall rank, which is here. So over here, this is what is known as a coherent profile. And what it means is that, especially the top 3 to 4 characteristics, they match in terms of self and in terms of overall. So you have CEO over here, CEO over here, RI, ME, and CF. So the first 3 or 4, they match. So who you think you are and what other people think you are more or less match a lot. Okay, so that's one profile. And the reason that you can have a green profile, it's a few reasons. One, some people are very transparent. Some people, it's being transparent doesn't mean that it's bad not to be transparent. Some people has got their emotions and their thinking written on their forehead.
Oh,
yeah. So it's that kind of people, and we're not saying that is always good, and not doing that is bad. It's just that person. So if you're that kind of person, and people around you will immediately tell you who you are, so you have a very coherent profile. Okay, so that's one. Then you have a compatible profile, which is you got the top 3, SHMEIMP, and then you have the top 3 here. They are the same, except the order is a different order. So in a way, this is usually what most people will get. There's some differences, but more or less we get the right sense of the people around you more or less knows where we are going, and this is the kind of person you are. It's more or less that. The third type is what is discordant. Discordant usually means what you think you're good at is perceived as what people are thinking you're not so good at, right? And what you think you are bad at, people think you are good at. So there's something that's it's kind of an opposite. Discordant profile usually happens when you are in a new position, you have a lot of stress, you are trying to balance between the different roles you may play in a given job, in the same job. So sometimes what you think you are, what you think you're doing, will be perceived rather differently from other people. And it can be kind of opposite. And the last one is called a confused profile. There is no patterns. Discordant is the opposite. What do you think you're good? People think you're bad. What do you think you're bad? People think you're good. So it's discordant. It's the opposite of you. The confused is there's no pattern. Right? So again, whether it's confused or discordant, it could be a case where you're overstressed, you are trying to juggle different roles, you are in a way confused about what you want, what needs to be done, and as a result, your team members are also confused. So whether you have discordant or confused profile, it is a signal to you that whatever you want to do, your team members tend to perceive it quite differently. So it's also a warning signal to say that there needs to be there may need to be more communication. You may need to do some straightening of your own thoughts, right, of your own directions on what you want to do in your dealing with your people. So these are tools for 360 feedback. Basically, in terms of 360, what we really want to do is, can we assess the tendency to behave, contribute, and interrelate with others in a way in the teams. So this is what we really want to assess. We don't want to assess a person's personality. We want to assess a person's behavior. Right? And there is a huge difference between the two. Personality sometimes cannot be changed. Behaviors are easier to change than personality. Personality sometimes, if someone has got a personality disorder, that means you need psychiatric help. You don't see psychologists, you see a psychiatrist. Okay, so that is you need serious help. So we're not focusing on personality, whether it's using the Bellman model or using other models. Basically, what we really want to focus is on the behaviors. If it's a negative behavior, there could be ways to change the behavior. It's hard to change personality. So, and in terms of behaviors, just briefly to let everybody know what kind of behaviors we can have. There are 3 categories. The first one is called social. This people who behave in a social way tend to get along well with other people. Okay, so there are the resource investigators. These are the enthusiastic people who likes to network, likes to meet up with a lot of people, that kind of person. Okay, this, you can call it the networker, so to speak. There is also the coordinator. These are the people who can get buy-in from many other people. Right? They can be the leader without knowing exactly what to do. They just need to gain buy-in. Okay, in ancient Chinese history, right? There's the most famous emperor is probably Han Gaozu, Liu Bang. Okay, so the first emperor of Han Dynasty. This person basically was like more of a hoodlum. We call it 小混混, right? During this time, and basically it's got very good coordinating skills, get people to buy in. So much so that a lot of his main competitors. Team defected and joined in. Right? Not a lot of skills, very good coordination. Built one of the longest dynasties in China. Then there is this kind of person called team workers. So these are people who are sensitive to others, who wants to make sure that everybody is well taken care of, don't offend people, be nice to people. So these are basically 3 social roles, and we can test on how good is the social role in a given setting. 2 is action roles, right? And action roles is what is known as how well you take action. So the first type is called a shaper, and basically it's challenging people, dynamic people, hard driving people.
Is that a whip?
It is a whip. Yeah, if you look at the Chinese translation, you'll know it's a whip. Whip people. You know, get people to do things. So it's a
Style of motivation.
Yeah, it's a style of motivation. Sometimes, yes. The other one is called an implementer. Implementer are the doers. These are the drivers. These are the doers. The drivers will make decisions. Implementers implement decisions, right? And the last one are the completer finisher. These are the one who perfects the work. They will get things done perfectly. Perfectionists. And last but not least, we have the thinking type, which are the first type is the plants. You get these are the idea generators, both great ideas and stupid ideas. They have a lot. Usually, you need to have 9 very stupid ideas before you come out to one great, fantastic idea. So they all have that, right? So the key thing to handle plants is try not to dampen their enthusiasm, right? By not shooting down their first few ideas, which are bad. because some of the great ideas may come up later. So these are the idea generators of plant. Two is the monitor evaluator. So they will evaluate the ideas to tell you what are the strengths, what are weaknesses of a certain idea, of a certain action. Right? These are the people who tend to respond slower. They need to think, deliberate, analyze, and then they don't even take action. They just tell you what are the pros and cons. Okay, this is a monitor evaluator. And last but not least, specialist people are specialized in a certain role and drill down deep into that role. So again, we are having, I mean, it was the 七夕节 last evening, right? 7月初7. We have a gathering with our neighbors and we're talking about kids. And one of the neighbors were very concerned, saying that their kids are not very active, not very proactive. They are like waiting for people to take the lead and then think and then deliberate and then follow. It's not like 慢一拍, it's like 慢两三拍. It's something a few steps slower. So we're saying that no, that may not be bad because we don't always need people to always take the lead. Sometimes it's good to stay back and think and deliberate and make sure it's a great idea before you follow or before you implement certain things. We need all kinds of roles in the given team situation. So as a result, we're saying that no one person is perfect, but the team can be in a given situation. Right. So this is how these are the various roles and different combination of roles can use to different effects in a team. These are some of the these are some of the words that the observers will use to describe a person. So assuming if you do an assessment, at the end of the assessment you'll be asked to punch in a few emails of the people around you. They will be given a list of words to describe you, and they just stick. Right? So these are some of the adjectives describing words to you. And the numbers beside here are the number of times these words appear. Okay, so this will this is a way to get feedback without the face-to-face issue. So sometimes it's difficult for the subordinate, the team member, to tell the boss, "Boss, you have a bad temper." Or boss, you are very skeptical. You are, especially if it's negative feedback. It's hard for a subordinate to tell the boss face to face. So over here, we're just saying that you just punch an email, get someone, and how you describe the boss, both the positive words as well as the constructively criticizing words to describe the boss. So you don't have to tell it to the boss's face. But at the same time, you can have that feedback without that confrontation, so to speak. This is a tool to circumvent it, and we found that it's usually quite useful in a situation in Asia, where sometimes subordinates are not used to telling the boss's strengths and weaknesses face to face. This is how we do it in terms of putting things as a team. So we can actually map this into a map like this. And the way that the map is being arranged is that the plant, the opposite of the plant, the ideal person, is the implementer. It's being arranged into opposites. Why? Because the plants think of ideas. The opposite of just thinking of ideas is actually implementing the ideas. So you have the opposite, right? And vice versa. Opposites does not mean that these two persons cannot work well together. It can be a source of potential conflict. It can also be a way of having a good, what we call complementary action.
They're not necessarily opposites of each other, but they might be complements of each other.
It is opposite, but because they're opposite, they complement each other. So you have ideas, then you do things. Without the ideas, there's nothing to implement, so to speak, and vice versa. The guys with the whip, the opposite with the whipper, the shaper person is the team worker. The team worker wants to console people, make people feel good. So in a way, if you whip too much, people feel alienated. So you need some of these people to make people feel nice and feel great and have fun. and vice versa. So it can be complementary, it can be potential sources of conflicts within the team. Right, so it's both. And what we do is, the initials here is a bit small, are actually the names of the people with the characteristic of the role that is found in the profile. So you can actually plot your team and find out where your team reside. Over here, what we see here is not a very good example in the sense that you see a name in every quadrant. So some you have more. You got this is symbol of the completer finisher. So you got more of this. You got more of this. But in a real team, sometimes you got some blanks, and sometimes you got half the team in one. Right. So again, it's not just self-awareness, but also you rise it up to team awareness. You are able to know not only what are strengths or limitations you have as a person, but also in your team, what are the strengths and limitations of the entire team, and what you can do to make sure the team becomes better.
My experience is also sometimes the role of some people changes.
Yes.
That after somebody leave, for example, maybe
yes.
in the thinking somebody is leave,
yes.
this role will replace.
It will. Because our behaviors, there are more or less six different factors that will affect our behavior. Right. Personality is one of them. What you learn on your role is one of them. That means you have been you've been a manager for 10 years, you're a manager in year 1, and you being the manager in year 10 will be very different because you learn a lot of things in your role over the past 10 years. So there's role learning. Your personal values will be in there. Your mental abilities will be in there. The people around you will influence your behavior as well. The goals of the organization will influence you as well. So let's say there is a merger and acquisition. Your company has been acquired by another company. So there is a change in the goal of the entire company, and that will actually influence your behavior as well. Yeah, so you're right to say that sometimes when a team members changes, especially if they are critical or highly influential team member changes, other team members, their behaviors may change. Yeah, so it's true. So we don't recommend people to say that they do an assessment and then let the assessment run forever. What we recommend people to do is that if there are significant changes in the team, it's probably time to do an assessment because behaviors will change. In that case, the next question that some people may pop up is, will that be very expensive? No, this is the price range. English version is around 400 RMB, the Chinese version is 450 RMB, so it's not that expensive. It's affordable to most companies. So if you want to have an assessment on the self-awareness of yourself and the team, when there are significant changes, it's something that's convenient, usable, simple, affordable. Yeah. And by the way, I don't make money from the assessment. Just to qualify that. Whatever I quoted, it will be the same price wherever you get. I don't earn commissions, bonuses from selling assessments.
Is that something that you find a lot of frustration with, actually?
Yeah, what do you mean the frustration?
Well, I mean, like with changes in management, changes in roles.
Depends. Not always.
So what's the ideal balance for you to have no blank in this?
Well, the standard model answer is to have everybody in everyone for sure, if that's doable. That means your team can be flexible enough to deal with almost every situation. Right? If that's not doable, then we'll see what's the situation, what's the goal, what are the requirements of the goal in terms of what kind of profiles of the people in your team is required to achieve this goal.
Yeah. You know, earlier you were showing us the 3 different models of character. I can't remember the names of them. Discordant, confused, and then balanced.
Well, there is the coherent.
Coherent.
Right. There is the what do you call
discordant.
There's a complementary,
Complementary.
there's a discordant, and there's confused.
All right. So what I'm wondering is, I mean, these you do the assessment to find out exactly like which of these 9 categories an individual fits in. Does the assessment also identify subcategories, other areas in which, like someone say, for example, is a monitor observer?
Yeah.
Is their personality? Is their strength?
Yeah.
But I mean, you identify second and third strengths.
Yes,
So,
yes.
As you said, your ideal situation is for everybody to be in every pot.
Yeah.
So I guess you can develop other areas if you've got
Yes.
an overload here.
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, so you got-
So basically, you have everything ranked from 1 to 9. There are 9 rows, and the top to the bottom is all ranked there. And when you plot into the quadrants, you don't just plot the first one. Usually, we plot your first 2 or your first 3, depending on how. Because sometimes this is what happens. We plot. I mean, we take the first 2, we plot, and found that half the quadrants are not filled. So the whole team panics, like, oh, we got a lot of weaknesses. So as a compromise, say, okay, let's fill in the third best ranking row and see if we can fill up more spaces in different quadrants. So that can be done. Sometimes we also fill in the last one as a negative sign or outside of the quadrant. So
Yeah.
that will be the weakness of the team.
So you mentioned that the different categories, with the exception of monitor, which is outside the circle,
Yeah.
are complementary to
Yeah.
each other or the
Yeah.
opposite of each other.
Yeah.
So by plotting the ninth, plotting the negative one, you may be able to more easily identify strength.
No, the weakness.
I know, but the weakness could identify a strength if there's a complementary form.
Could be, yeah. So we can actually have the strengths and also be mindful of what are key weaknesses of the team. Because if, let's say, you are an accounting firm, and then half the team members has got the number 9, the completer finisher. That's bad news. Accounting firm, and you're not perfectionists. So these are ways that we can actually assess yourself, and also assess the team. We have a 360 feedback mechanism in it, so it's more or less better rounded. It allows people to give feedback without the stigma of giving very direct face-to-face feedback. Yes.
And I think the benefit assessment is really nice. And
Yeah.
after getting the result, for example, if
Yes.
I am the team leader and my team is settled, that means I cannot change any one of my
Sure.
single team members.
Sure.
And the task will be different.
Yes.
How am I going to use these results to really to achieve that goal?
That's where sometimes you try to dig in further and look at what are the third, sometimes if need be the fourth ranking, what we call role. And why we look at third and fourth is that these are potentials. You don't. The top 2 usually are things that it comes to you natural. Things from 3 to 5 or 4 to 5 tends to be things that you have potential but probably need some training and some adjustments, right? And 7 to 9 are things that are hopeless. Don't bother trying to change, right? So if in the case that the team is more or less fixed and there's not much you can do, what you can do is drill in further and look for potentials, and maybe that's where you can train and adjust yourself so that you can still fulfill the goals. Make sense?
In that sense, does that mean, for example, my ranking top 1 or 2, that means I cannot change it?
Well, again, no, because like I said, your behaviors will change when situations change. So your top 1 to 3 may come to you naturally now, given your job now, given your team now. That 3, in extreme cases, may change entirely in a new job or with a new team.
Or over time.
Or over time, yes. Yeah. And for some people, the behaviors won't change forever, right? And for some people, they change like every day. Those are two extremes. So again, it's just a snapshot of where you are today. based on what you think you are and what your team members think you are, the strengths and weaknesses, where your team stands as it is today, how can you make use of the strengths to fulfill the goals. And last but not least, this is something again from Sun Tzu Art of War. One of the 5 factors if you want to win a war. If you are able to empower capable leaders without interfering them. Right, so it's funny things, we have this concept of delegation, right? Delegation is not a Western concept, came from Sun Tzu Art of War. Coincidence. So it's about really, if you find the right leaders with the right abilities and share the right values, share the same goals as you do, then just let them do what they need to do. Okay, so it's not just abilities wise, it's also the goals, it's also the values. If everything is well aligned, let them have a free rein. On the other hand, it also doesn't mean you just let them have a free rein and do nothing. It is also about letting them have a free rein, but at the same time keeping each other in the feedback. You don't interfere, but you like to have feedback. And they will also like to have feedback too. It's both ways. Yeah, so this again goes into the self-awareness. It goes into how we actually get our jobs well done.
Wow.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. One question. What about this is with the capable leaders? What about if the incapable leaders?
Then you have a problem.
Change it? Yeah, but it's a lot. It's the normal situation.
Yes.
You change it, or you how can you set something to balance?
That's why we are saying that in some cases, if the incapability is not very serious, you can train them. If there is a total mismatch, it is useless to train them.
Like in the value and in the goal.
If it's value and goal, then it needs to be communicated. And sometimes, maybe they just don't share the value and goals, and maybe it's time to part ways. Because skills is something that can be trained a lot easier. I'm not saying skills is easily trained, but it's a lot easier to train skills than to change attitudes. Yeah. So if that person refuses to change their values, their attitudes, their goals, there is very little that you can do. Right? One of the criteria before this line, we mentioned there are 5 criteria to win a war. The third one I think was if you align your goals from top to bottom, you win. 上下同欲者胜. So it's like you need to have the same goals. You cannot be part of the company wants to go one direction, the other part of the company wants to go the other direction. You just have a tug of war for the same resources, for the same ideas. There's no way they can move in one standard direction. So you need to have that alignment of goals and that alignment of values. If it's really too much of a diversion, then one party would have to say goodbye to the other party. Right? So it's that sense. Yeah. So in a way, it really needs the first thing to do is to actually have that communication. Have you been communicating your goals, your values, and have you been defining your values into specific behaviors that everybody can observe, can judge, can actually grade with one another? So if that is clear and we all buy in, great, then we can move forward. If it's clear but somehow people disagree, then we may have some deep issues. Yeah. Shirley?
Question. Because just assume that one boss, obviously one general manager, together with one team, together with different managers, and then you just identify 3 roles. One is the solution, one is thinker, one is implementer.
Yes.
But unfortunately, that general manager is he's good at implement something. He's not a good thinker or not a good solution. But according to the Chinese culture, we just respect somebody who can have some inspiration, and then who's not a good doer. And then how can this general manager manager keep his keep respect from others.
What are you saying? So he's not an implementer.
He actually, this general manager is good at implement, and he's not a good
at
singer.
following up the completion.
He's a completion, following up.
He's an action-oriented guy. He's not good in the thinking part.
He's not good at thinking, and he's not good at social. And then, well, according to the Chinese culture, we just respect the leader is leading something, leading direction, but he's always action like a 1 or 2 steps slower than his managers.
Yeah.
But how can that, big boss and managers gain the respect from others?
By listening to the teammates who have the abilities to relax.
Yeah, but this is totally the Western culture. It's not the Chinese culture.
But I think, because I think we talked about, I used to work in Germany for 15 years. We worked in a German company. The general manager must be German.
Yeah.
I think it's not the implement. I think it's culture difference inside the different way how to lead the company. I would say it's totally different. How because the Chinese expectation how the general manager should be is totally different than the German expected to a general manager.
Sure.
I think that's
So, but how can this general manager to be survive in China?
Well, it's a matter of communication, because even within China, there are different companies with different corporate cultures, even within China, and even within Chinese-owned companies, as in means privately owned Chinese companies, there are difference in corporate cultures as well. It's not just say if you belong to one category, you're all like that. So what the general manager has to do, and again, it's actually a lot to do with the general manager's self-awareness about what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. Your strengths could be the doing things. Are you aware that there could be a limitation in you, that you don't have the best ideas, that you don't sometimes able to get buy-in from others? So if these are weaknesses, there are 2 things you can do. One, can you train yourself? If that is too painful, can you get other trusted team members to do that for you? Right? So this is something that is not alien to China. It's not something that's un-Chinese, because this is what the ancient emperors do. Well, you got an emperor, you got many ministers, right? So and you get the right minister to do the right job. So it's a similar situation. Just give me a second. What is Chinese is that whoever's boss will like to assert their authority. That is, in a way, more Chinese, more hierarchical in that sense. So there are ways to do that without losing your sense of authority. You can know who are your trusted sources that will compliment you. You get them in first in your small group meeting and say, this is what you want to do. Can you give ideas? Can you, get the message and communicate and persuade everybody else? If this small little team, the core team, is all aligned, then we'll roll out. So you can work with a small group to the big group. And interestingly, just some history stories. Anyone familiar with the story of the 3 kingdoms, Sangguo? Stories, and these are very Chinese stories. Now, and a few years ago, there was this movie called Chibi. Red Cliff, right? So Chibi. So basically, you have the Cao Cao attacking the king of Wu, and the Wu actually had less army but defeated a bigger force. In the real history with the kingdom of Wu, most of the people are saying, we are not fighting, we are surrendering. We will lose it, we won't fight. And what the law of the king of Wu back then was to have a small group meeting with just 1 or 2 trusted sources and make the final decision and just fight the war. Okay, so these are things that happen in authoritarian, what they call feudal China, and these are some of the techniques that that still can be used today. And again, it's a very Chinese thing. I just know my weakness. I don't to a certain extent, if the boss feels uncomfortable telling the whole world my weakness, it's okay. You don't have to tell the whole world, but you need to know, right? And you need to work with your trusted sources to, in a way, cover up your weakness, right? If that is necessary.
Yeah. Actually, I just refer to the circles.
Yeah.
You say that you separate it into the 9 roles.
Yes.
And then why not the answers?
Yeah.
But even major authority, just like general manager, he cannot show his weakness to all the big group. He can show his shared pros and cons with his co-members, which is only 2 or 3, and then this 3 person group, grown up as a fight as a really core team,
Sure.
and then try to give the influence.
Sure.
To try to influence others, the
Sure.
big circle,
Sure.
and then to go in a
Sure.
hierarchy.
Sure. Sure.
So that way,
Sure.
just like Liu Bang.
Sure. Yes.
Is it not possible to show the weakness to the people?
No, it's not. It's impossible. Otherwise, you will lose respect to others. Even
Depends on
you
culture.
have
Some
mind-
cultures
that's
feel
the culture.
uncomfortable with
That's
that.
the
Yeah.
culture.
Yeah, because I
That's
think
the
in
culture.
Western cultures
Yeah.
they're really open about it, but in
Yeah.
Chinese cultures they
And
really
that's
want
the
to hide
gap. We need to point it very clear.
Yeah.
If big leader,
Well,
really big
even
leader,
with the Chinese culture, because over here when we talk about the weaknesses and the limitations, we're not talking about serious weaknesses, right? We are talking about what are your preferred modes? Are you taking action? Are you better in thinking the plans, or are you better in dealing with people? So even if in the Chinese sense, everybody knows the boss is bad with dealing with people, right? It's a kind of the weakness that most Chinese bosses will still feel comfortable sharing. So what? My team knows I'm blunt with people. I'm not a team worker, so don't expect nice words from me. So that in that sense, in that partial sense, it still works with a lot of Chinese company culture. Of course, we're not going to make it an excuse to be abrasive, to be nasty to people. It's just that sometimes even in Chinese companies, if you know that this is the kind of a temperament your boss is going to have, it also helps the team, both the boss and the subordinates, on how you actually can work better together. Yeah. If you know that your boss is not someone who is a very good communicator, then you may want to think about better ways on how to communicate with the boss, or seek clarifications when the communication are not very clear. Yeah, so it usually can. We have done this with Belvin has been used in terms of Chinese companies. Has been used with Alibaba. Has been used with Tencent, Tencent, right? So for the younger type of Chinese private enterprises, it has been widely accepted. Yeah, so it's there's still a lot of adoption from Chinese companies.
Yes, so one question back to this case. You said in China that you cannot use the authority. If you build the key team with the key member, what do you mean concrete not to use the authority?
Oh, okay. The Chinese culture is or Chinese corporate culture tends to want to the boss tends to want to show that they have the authority. They are in charge. They make the final call. They make the final decision. So this is more Chinese, more Asian way of running things around. Now it doesn't conflict with the team decision, right? In a more Western participative type of leadership, maybe we have more consensus building. Whereas in authoritarian, the boss can get feedback, but can have the final say as I will accept, I will not accept, or I will accept with modifications. I have the final say. Yeah. Further questions? Right, if no further questions, this is what we have. We have the question and answer over here. This our contact details, and We will be sending you the PDF version of the presentation over the next couple of days. Right, so that's going to help you as well. Right, we haven't finally decided the topic for next month. It is likely to be on how to sell and meet your targets without bribing. Right, yes, so it's not a hot topic now, and we're landing into how to sell, how to generate a lot of sales without bribing your customers. So it's a hot topic, and we'll have some observations we'd like to share with everybody. So if you have sales teams and sales directors who are kind of caught in the situation in China, we have both case studies of companies that don't bribe and still make money. We have cases of why certain salespeople tend to bribe, even though there is no need to. Right, so there are some we have spoken to different companies and get some of those feedback. Right, so we'll set a date in now it's August. We'll set a date in September, and we'll let everybody know. Right, thank you for your time. Sorry to overrun for about 15 minutes. Thanks for your time.